Thierry Boutse die reed de 16e tijd, stond vrijdag na de eerste kwalificatierit nog op de 7e plaats. Terwijl we hier kijken naar Gianni Morbidelli in de Minardi Ferrari V12. Morbidelli die de 10e tijd reed en dus op de 5e lijn start met naast hem ging er schuinweg de Leighton House van deze Maurizio Gugelmin. De Marches hebben het vrij goed gedaan. Ik zeg nog March, maar eigenlijk moeten we tegenwoordig Leighton House zeggen, sinds dit bedrijf het team heeft opgekocht. En dat is niet zo verrassend, want die wagens die hebben een aerodynamica die bijzonder gevoelig ligt. Gaan nauwelijks vooruit op circuits die hobbelig zijn, maar het wegdek in Magny-Cours is zo vlak als een biljarttafel. De aerodynamica kan voluit aan bod komen. En vandaar die goede prestatie van Gugelmin en ook wel van Capelli die de 15e tijd reed. Gugelmin die vernemen we zo pas met de Muller-rijd, met de reservewagen. Terwijl we hier kijken naar Nelson Piquet. 194 Grand Prix, 23 overwinningen, 24 pole positions en 3 keer wereldkampioen. 1 keer winnaar dit jaar, dat weten we nog wel, in Canada toen hij won tot zijn eigen verbazing. Toen Menzel, die de wedstrijd compleet had beheerst, helemaal op het einde uitviel met die semi-automatische versnellingsbak die het weer liet afweten. Jean Alesi, 6e tijd voor hem in die nieuwe Ferrari, de 643, waarover we straks nog wel wat meer vertellen. Maar Ferrari moest wat doen. Dit is Gerard Berger in de McLaren. Dit wordt zijn 23e Grand Prix voor McLaren. En u weet het, Berger nog altijd geen zege voor het Britse team. 5e tijd voor hem gisteren en een plaats dus op de 3e rij naast Jean Alesi. 105e Grand Prix, 5 overwinningen. Maar de laatste die dateert alweer van een hele poos geleden. Hier Nigel Mansell. Voor de 7e keer dit seizoen trager dan zijn teamgenoot Riccardo Patrese. Dat zegt toch wel wat, vind ik. 7-0 in het voordeel van Patrese. 155 Grand Prix, 16 overwinningen. Het had er 17 kunnen zijn in Canada. Maar ik heb al verteld daarnet hoe het gekomen is dat het uiteindelijk niet doorging. Hier Ayrton Senna. De winnaar van de eerste 4 grote prijzen van het seizoen. Ook 4 poles in die wedstrijden. Maar een beetje stilgevallen. Net zoals McLaren, ook daar komen we nog wel op terug. Wat er precies aan de hand is, als er dan iets aan de hand zou zijn. 3e tijd voor hem en een plaats dus op de 2e rij. Alain Prost, gisteren scherp rondje gereden. 1:14:789 of 2/10 van een seconde trager dan Riccardo Patrese. Alain Prost is geen as in dit soort werk, in die time trials, in die kwalificatieritten. Maar in Frankrijk is hij toch bereid om altijd weer een tandje meer te steken. Gaat hij iets meer tot het uiterste. Is ook recordhouder wat het aantal overwinningen betreft in Frankrijk. Alain Prost met 5, waarvan de 3 laatste grote prijzen van Frankrijk, die heeft hij gewonnen. In 88, 89 en 90, telkens op dat snelle circuit van Le Castellet in het zuiden van Frankrijk. En hier dus de man die we daar straks die snelle ronde zagen rijden, Riccardo Patrese. En ik denk dat we over weinige ogenblikken de volledige stargrid in beeld gaan krijgen. Ik heb het al gezegd, Thierry Boutse 16e. Had gisteren serieuze problemen met die Lamborghini V12 motor. Vrijdag nog 7e, maar dan teruggevallen naar een 16e plaats. En dat geeft recht op een startplaats op de 8e rij. Staat daar trouwens naast Ivan Capelli. Boutse heeft het vanmorgen uitstekend gedaan in de warm-up, wil ik nog wel even zeggen. Heeft daar de 3e tijd gereden. Hier dus die stargrid met Patrese en Prost, dat wisten we al. De 2e rij met Senna en Mansell. De 3e met Berger en Alesi. De 3 topteams dus op de eerste 3 rijen. En dan de subtop met de 2 Benettons, Piquet en Moreno op de 4e rij. De 5e rij met Gugelmin en Morbidelli. De 6e rij met de Tyrrell Honda van Modena en de Minardi Ferrari van Martini. De Cesaris in de Jordan op de 7e rij samen met Comas. De 8e rij Capelli met Thierry Boutse. De 9e Blundell in de Brabham Yamaha en Nakajima in de Tyrrell. De 10e rij met Gachot, 19e tijd voor Gachot en Johnny Herbert. De 11e rij met Olivier Grouillard en Aguri Suzuki. De 12e met Eric Bernard en Martin Brundle. En dan de hekkensluiters, de 13e rij met Michele Alboreto in de Footwork Ford. Dat staat daar juist, want Porsche heeft zich een tijdje teruggetrokken om aan de motor te gaan sleutelen. U weet dat de resultaten alles behalve waren. Dus Porsche heeft zich een tijdje teruggetrokken, wil de motor op punt brengen en dan terugkomen mogelijk tegen de grote prijs van Japan. Dat is de op één na laatste wedstrijd van het seizoen. Gachot die vertrekt vandaag met de reservewagen. De problemen die hij gisteren had tijdens de tweede kwalificatierit, die zijn blijkbaar niet opgelost. Wat was er aan de hand? Gachot had problemen met de benzinetoevoer en heeft die tweede kwalificatierit moeten rijden met die reservewagen. Maar die was gisteren afgesteld voor Andrea de Cesaris, voor zijn teamgenoot dus. En vandaar dat hij geen al te scherpe tijd heeft kunnen neerzetten. 19e tijd, was lange tijd zelfs niet gekwalificeerd. Stond op een bepaald moment genoteerd met de 27e tijd. Maar een tiental minuten voor het einde van die tweede kwalificatie heeft hij dat toch voor elkaar gekregen. En alsnog een plaatsje op die startgrid weten te versieren. Maar de problemen, ik herhaal het nog maar eens, we hebben dat net doorgekregen vanuit Frankrijk, niet opgelost voor Bertrand Gachot. De problemen met die benzinetoevoer die blijven en hij moet dus starten met de reservewagen. Daar dus een deel van het publiek, allemaal Ferrari, al wat de klok slaat, allemaal supporters natuurlijk van één man, Alain Prost, de man recordhouder wat het aantal overwinningen betreft. 44 stuks, maar nog geen dit seizoen. 4 keer hadden we dus Ayrton Senna, toen de Braziliaan en McLaren alles en iedereen verpletterde, zeer tot wanhoop van iedereen die iets met de Formule 1 te maken heeft in dat seizoensbegin. En u ziet het, ik heb het daarnet gezegd, de vraag was groter dan het aanbod en de toeschouwers, de freaks, hebben plaatsgevonden ook op het dak daar van een van de officiële gebouwen daar op het circuit van Magny-Cours. Ook laddertjes hebben ze meegebracht om maar beter te kunnen zien, beter te kunnen kijken naar deze Grand Prix van Frankrijk, de 7e wedstrijd van het seizoen. Even zeggen dat zo'n rondje op Magny-Cours 4271 meter is. Er moeten in totaal 72 ronden worden afgelegd. Dat geeft dus een totaal aantal kilometers van 307 en nog wat. Het is een compleet nieuw circuit, heb ik gezegd. De veiligheidsmaatregelen zijn uitzonderlijk goed. Ook de infrastructuur.
Welcome to Magny-Cours, France, for the start of the 1991 French Grand Prix. Very shortly. The first time it has ever been held on this very much restored circuit, on which some £35 million has been spent to put in some absolutely superb facilities. It's going to be a long, tough, grueling race, hard on drivers, hard on cars, not particularly hard on tires, we think, because the surface is very smooth indeed. And for the third race in succession, number 6, Riccardo Patrese in the Williams Renault. And of course this is the home circuit for the Renault organisation, leads the 26 competitors round proudly. And if he can get a good start, unlike the one that he got in Mexico and in Canada, he might do a Hungary 1990 when Thierry Boutsen started in the Williams Renault from pole position, led all the way and won. But there's a long way before that can happen. You can see the circuit now. There has been some criticism from a few of the drivers about difficulty in passing. There has been some criticism about the chicanes, of which there are several, but nevertheless it is a tremendously spectacular circuit to watch. And in the second position on the starting grid, on the front row for the first time since Phoenix, the first Grand Prix of 1991, is Alain Prost, 5 times a winner of the French Grand Prix, in the new Ferrari with the fashionable upswept nose, new aerodynamics. Prost is really on a high to be in that front row position. And a lot is going to depend, as I have just said, on who gets into the first corner, the 140-mile-an-hour Grande Courbe. So, now downhill slightly. This is almost at the end of the lap. There is a chicane just before the final corner. Ayrton Senna only third on the grid, not on the front row, and he was not on the front row in Mexico or in Canada. And the McLarens have been having a lot of problems with understeering and heavy tyre wear. The Ligiers, there is Eric Comas going through the picture, and then is Thierry Boutsen, have got new aerodynamics designed by Frank Durney, and they're going much, much better here on their home circuit. The Ligier factory is only a very short distance away from the circuit, which they use a lot for testing. So, on the left of your picture, pole position, Riccardo Patrese. On the right, in the scarlet Ferrari, Alain Prost. Behind Patrese is Ayrton Senna. Behind Prost in the second Williams, Nigel Mansell, second row of the grid. Fifth on the grid, it is Berger. Sixth is Alesi. Watch the lights. And this is the critical time, and it's go! Patrese has blown it again. Prost leads. Mansell up into second place. Ayrton Senna in third position. Berger is in fourth place. Alesi is fifth. And Riccardo Patrese is right down in eighth position after the thing that he dreaded, an absolutely terrible start.
Yes, certainly a big mistake at the start there from Patrese. He seemed to move off the line and then not struggle with gears, and that's one of the Jordans off the road.
Yeah, it looks to me very much like Bertrand Gachot, who had a lot of trouble in qualifying, only managed to get onto the grid last, well down, and it looks as though his race is run. But the two McLarens now, well up, so they are coming down to the Adelaide hairpin, round from there, on to complete the first lap of this 2.65-mile course. They're coming up to Imola now, and here is, looking back from Nelson Piquet's Benetton with the Ford engine into the very slow hairpin, and that is Morbidelli. Behind is Moreno, so it's Roberto Moreno that we're looking at, number 19 now, coming down to the end of the first lap, coming through, and past they go now, into the, and as you can see for yourself, it is the Ferrari in the lead. Mansell is in second place. Ayrton Senna is in third position, and the Ferrari is absolutely streaking away.
Yes, and Alain Prost really seems to have the bit between his teeth today. None of his normal tactics of taking a nice, easy start, having a good look, because he's charging away on the first lap, and Mansell's going to have to get his head down just to hold on. McLaren's third and fourth, and they really had a lot of trouble in the warm-up this morning. Lazy pressing the two McLarens. They were very slow, a lot of understeer, a lot of front tyre trouble. And in fact, Gerhard Berger has gone on the harder compound, the Bs. All the other Goodyear runners are on the softer C. They're expecting to change, but this may be a good gamble by Berger, because the two Ligiers are the only other cars on Bs, and they of course live at this circuit and they test here all the time. And to copy their knowledge may not be such a bad decision.
Riccardo Patrese is only in ninth position. He's coming towards you now. There are the two Benettons. Behind them is the Minardi Ferrari. And Riccardo Patrese, who started from pole, is ninth. Alain Prost leading on lap 2. The man who's won the French Grand Prix 5 times is only in fifth position in the World Championship. Needs the 10 points he could get for winning here. And the new Ferrari is certainly working. Nigel Mansell has come up from fourth on the grid to second in the race. Senna is third, Berger is fourth, and in fifth and sixth positions, Alesi in the second Ferrari and Nelson Piquet.
Yes, and after a terrible start, this is a real test of Patrese's resolve. He's been a new man this year in both determination and speed of driving in the car. And but this is a very tough, twisty circuit. Overtaking is exceptionally difficult here, and he's given himself the handicap of being back in ninth place this early. Mansell has now settled and is holding, or in fact visually he may even have caught Prost slightly. He held him on the second lap of the race. Prost made all that ground on the first lap, and we'll just have to watch for a moment. I think Mansell's closed up a bit, so they're starting to settle out front, and they're pulling away, the pair of them, from the two McLarens.
Yes, Alain Prost is in a very commanding position at the moment. Ferrari yet to win a Grand Prix in 1991. Now Berger closing up on Senna. That is Alesi in 5th place. 6th is Piquet. 7th is Moreno. 8th is still the Minardi of Gianni Morbidelli, not Martini incidentally. Patrese 9th, Modena 10th, Martini is 11th. De Cesaris is in 12th place, and they go through to complete another lap. The gap between Alain Prost leading and Nigel Mansell is 1.6 seconds, and it's increasing slightly.
Now, what I've noticed with the McLarens is that Berger is right behind Senna. Berger is on the harder tyre, and I think they'd be well advised if Berger, or certainly to check through on the radio, to let Berger go and have a go, because I think he's being held up by Ayrton Senna at the moment.
Who will not be very anxious to let him past, of course, and in 5th position it's the 2nd Ferrari of Jean Alesi, who has yet to shine in a Grand Prix since he joined the Ferrari team. Well, Mansell and Prost, two men who desperately need the World Championship points. Prost to close the gap between himself and Ayrton Senna, and Nigel Mansell to improve on his 4th place in the first 2 positions. So Ferrari leads, Williams Renault 2nd, the McLaren Honda of Senna 4th, followed by his teammate Berger 4th, Senna being 3rd of course, then the 2nd Ferrari, Alesi 5th, and Piquet and the Benetton 6th.
And the gap between the first two, Prost and Mansell, still almost the same. Prost has just edged away. He was 1.5 seconds ahead on the first lap, just a 10th a lap since then. Behind them, as you rightly say, Murray, Senna may not be that keen to let Berger through, but in fact that would probably be their best tactic, because really, if the B compound is working well, Senna would, ideally, Berger can be more help to him getting up amongst the Williams and the Ferrari ahead and causing a bit of havoc there. I don't mean physically, but by causing them to hurry, maybe make bad decisions on their tyre stops and that sort of thing. Berger could really put pressure on them, and that might help Ayrton later. He can always slow down later in the race to give a place to Ayrton if he needs to. On the other hand, if he's quick enough, he can take points away by winning the race. So maybe McLaren's ought to consider that.
Alain Prost settling down, the 36-year-old Frenchman. 1.87 seconds in front of Nigel Mansell's Williams Renault on the right. And Prost has put up the fastest lap in every lap so far in this race. We're on lap 5 now out of 72. The fastest lap we have, Prost 1:21.26, which is a lap record automatically, because this is the first time that this circuit's been used for a Grand Prix, and it's some 7 seconds slower, of course, than the pole position time put up by Riccardo Patrese, who is still in 9th position, battling with Morbidelli, trying to get past the Minardi, as through to complete lap 5, Prost, Mansell. Now we'll be able to look back down the field, but it's a long, long way, and Prost is now 2.5 seconds ahead of Mansell, who is 6 seconds ahead of Senna, who has got Berger and Alesi right behind him. The battle, in fact, is for 3rd place, not for 1st or 2nd.
Yes, that's right, and further down, Patrese is making no progress. Morbidelli has split the two Benettons. He's got past Moreno, and Patrese is pressing Moreno, but he's not making the sort of progress he's going to need to do in the early laps to start passing people if he's going to get on terms with the leaders and stand a chance of winning this race.
It's an astounding lead that the first two have got at this stage of the race. They're 6 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, the man who so dominated the first 4 races of 1991, winning Phoenix, Brazil, San Marino and Monaco, although he had troubles in every race. Williams seemed to have overcome the semi-automatic gearbox problem that troubled them at the beginning of the season. Mansell is very happy with the car, and we'll be able to see soon now how the gap is. Now they go through and complete the lap, and here is the gap. Prost goes through in the lead. Mansell goes through in 2nd place, 2.4 seconds still.
Yes, and that's the first time Mansell's lap's quicker than Prost, a new fastest lap in the race for Nigel Mansell, and he pulled just a couple of tenths of a second back on Prost then. But Prost over 2 seconds ahead and has been inching away. And really, I think Senna on the softer tire is still struggling, which has he found as a caption for the new fastest lap for Mansell. But of course times are going to come down all the way through this early part of the race. The cars have got heavy old fuel loads on, nearly 50 gallons on board, and that ups their start line weight by more than 50%. And of course that all comes off by the end of the race. So the battle behind, a lazy Piquet and the Benetton.
Race order on lap 7 out of 72, just about 1/10 distance. Prost and Mansell, and they are leading. Senna third, Berger fourth, Alesi fifth, Piquet sixth, Morbidelli seventh, Moreno is eighth, Patrese still in 9th position, Modena in the Tyrrell in 10th position, 11th Pierluigi Martini, 12th position Andrea De Cesaris. Prost and Mansell go through to start their 8th lap, and as you can see there's a clear circuit behind them.
Dus die zijn we al kwijt. Weer een snelste ronde voor Nigel Mansell. 1:21.104 of een gemiddelde snelheid van bijna 190 km per uur.
And that is Gerhard Berger, pulled off in his McLaren steering wheel off. That's the end of his race, and that looks distinctly like a mechanical failure. Remember, he had a huge engine blow up early in the race in Mexico, and he's looking around the transmission area of the car. That would be gearbox or something in that area, maybe diff or a drive shaft, something like that. But anyway, the transmission end of the car, that one would guess. Normally when the engine blows up, there's a bit of sort of smoke wisping around the place.
And yet again, Gerhard Berger goes out of a Grand Prix, and here's the replay of him doing it with Alesi moving up into 4th position, and Berger, who failed to finish in Phoenix and Monaco. That's a spin from the Jordan of Bertrand of Andrea De Cesaris. So Berger, who failed to finish in Phoenix, Monaco, Canada and Mexico, has only finished twice this year, and it certainly isn't his season. Now there is Pierluigi Martini being hit by Modena as Gugelmin goes through, followed by the Ligier. And we're going to be seeing more of this, I think, in this race, because it's a demonstration of how incredibly difficult it is to pass on this Nevers circuit at Magny-Cours.
Yes, and I think to be fair to Modena, that was Pierluigi Martini very definitely hitting Modena and not the other way around. He was trying to pass him, locked his brakes, got the back all sideways, and the back got away from him, and he just bumped into Modena.
And for the first time in 1991, Gianni Morbidelli, the young Italian, who incidentally is suffering very badly from a heavy dose of flu, is in the points. He is in 6th place in the Minardi Ferrari, chasing 5th place man Nelson Piquet, 4th Alesi, 3rd Ayrton Senna. Berger out of the race, Mansell in 2nd position. There is the leader, Alain Prost. So Frenchman in the Ferrari leads here at Magny-Cours, and he is showing a clean pair of rear wheels to everybody, including Nigel Mansell, although Mansell can see them, which is more than the others can, as Prost goes through to complete his 9th lap. And we have news from Jonathan Palmer.
And I'm in the pits with Gerhard Berger. Gerhard, that looked very disappointing indeed. Tell us what happened.
Engine problem again.
And you know what sort of problem it was?
No, I get a strange noise, and then engine bar goes down and I stop the engine.
It looked from the early stages that your choice of B tyres was looking strong. How did it feel compared to the seat on Ayrton?
Good. I just settle everything because I change a lot of the setup, so I have to understand the car a little bit. But
thank you very much, Gerhard Murray.
Well, we were wondering what was happening to Riccardo Patrese. Now here's a replay. Let's have a look. That's Morbidelli and Piquet. And through goes Patrese, and that accounts for the fact that the Italian is now in 5th position. Prost, Mansell, Senna, Alesi, Patrese, Piquet is the order.
Yes, and that was very fortuitous for Patrese. We didn't see how he'd made his places, but now he's got a clear road in front of him. He's some 10 seconds behind Alesi, and we can get an impression now of just how quickly that Riccardo Patrese is able to run on his own.
So Gerhard Berger out, Gianni Morbidelli out. Here are the leaders plunging down to the chicane, which leads into the very tight hairpin at the end of the lap. You can see the finish line painted on the circuit. Alain Prost has passed it to complete his 10th lap, and he leads Mansell still by a comfortable 2.5 seconds, although Mansell is currently lapping faster than the Ferrari.
Yes, they're absolutely locked together. It's been around the 2.5 for some laps now, and it looks comfortable the distance apart, but that's about the only thing for those two drivers, I think, Murray, because they're both, undoubtedly they're both on the limit. Prost is desperately trying to stretch that lead, and you can see that Mansell is really charging desperately. He's holding on, but he's desperately trying to close that gap. He just wants to get in real striking distance and pick up the draft a little bit from the Ferrari. That, of course, doesn't make a lot of help on a circuit like this. In fact, it messes up the downforce on the car, but he would like to be about 1.5 seconds behind. That's the comfortable distance, and then he would feel a little bit more in touch.
This race is an indication of how the pendulum can swing in Grand Prix racing. Ron Dennis, the head man of the McLaren organisation, said only yesterday, we're very conscious of the fact that we don't currently have the best Grand Prix car. We did at the beginning of the season, but Ferrari are catching, Williams have caught, Benetton are getting better, and there's the proof of the pudding, with Ayrton Senna in 3rd position, 17 seconds behind the leaders, and Jean Alesi in 4th place, right behind the McLaren. So both the Ferraris are in the top 4 places. One of the McLarens is out. Both the Williams are still running and are in the top 6 places. And Prost and Mansell are showing everybody the way to go as Senna and Alesi. This is the most exciting battle on the circuit at the present moment. They are 19 seconds behind Nigel Mansell, who is in 2nd place. Ayrton Senna has been pushing Honda and McLaren very hard indeed to improve the Honda V12 engine and the McLaren chassis, and they're expecting real improvements for the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, but even they are expecting the situation to be much the same at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix next week as it is here.
Yes, and Patrese is just starting to get into his stride now. He's not lapping, he's still 1 second away from the speed that Prost and Mansell are lapping, but on the other hand, he's well over 0.5 second quicker than Senna and Alesi, the people in his immediate sight. So Patrese is starting to close. The question that hangs over Patrese's car is, did he damage his tyres running in that traffic early on? Because if you're trying very hard in traffic and you're getting a lot of slip on the tyres, then you can overheat them, and the front tyres are very marginal here.
Well, down in the pit lane, the man who's got the story for us, Grand Prix driver Jonathan Palmer. What is it, Jonathan?
Well, apparently, Murray, what happened was that off the line, Patrese was in 1st gear and got a lot of wheel spin. Now, he selected 2nd with a semi-automatic gearbox, but the selection went through 2nd and into 3rd by mistake. That bogged the engine down right out of the power band. He lost all the momentum, all the acceleration, and of course got dropped right back to 9th place. Good news, though, is that there is apparently no gearbox damage, and he's now running well.
Yes, and he's the 3rd fastest man on the circuit, slower only than Alain Prost, who is 2nd fastest, and Nigel Mansell, who's just created a new lap record in 2nd place, 1 minute 20.9, 2.3 seconds behind Prost, so he's catching the Frenchman. And the race order in the French Grand Prix on lap 13, Prost in the Ferrari, there he is, 5 times a winner in France, leads Mansell in the Williams Renault by 2.35 seconds. Senna is 21 seconds in 3rd place behind Mansell and dropping back, just ahead of Jean Alesi's Ferrari, 4th position. Riccardo Patrese is lapping faster in 5th position than Alesi and Senna, and Alain Prost has now completed 13 laps, and on his 12th lap he was faster than Nigel Mansell. He's streaking around the circuit now. He's got a racing rhythm going. He will be getting those signals from his Ferrari team. He's in front of his home crowd. The adrenaline must be pouring out of him, as it is out of his countrymen, who are watching him in rapt silence at the present moment. Senna now 22 seconds behind Mansell and 1 second ahead of Jean Alesi in 4th position. Riccardo Patrese has closed the gap between himself and Alesi in 4th place to 7.8 seconds, and he's lapping 1.3 seconds a lap faster than Alesi. 6th is Piquet in the Benetton, 7th is Moreno, 8th is Mauricio Gugelmin, who you will remember ran 2nd in the French Grand Prix last year, and somebody has gone off. But it's a Tyrrell, I can tell you that, coming down to out of the chicane. It's Nakajima, I think. Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver, it is, retires for reasons you can see very clearly yourself. He's perfectly okay. Nakajima, whose great desire at the present moment, I understand, is to retire from Grand Prix racing. There are all sorts of rumours about who's going to be taking his place in the Tyrrell Honda team in 1992. But Nakajima retires and it's his 4th retirement of the year. Perfect.
Gezien in die aanrijding met Pierluigi Martini was dat, maar we hebben nog geen informatie of hij daarbij schade heeft opgelopen aan de wagen of waar hij op dit moment precies in koers zit. Hier Senna en Alesi, de nummers 3 en 4, maar op heel respectabele afstand van de nummers 1 en 2, Prost en Mansell. Veel betekenend vind ik het verschil tussen Prost, Mansell en niet zozeer Alesi, maar wel Ayrton Senna. Berger, die zijn we kwijt voor de mensen die nu pas inschakelen, die nu pas meekijken. Berger, die is weer uitgevallen met mechanische problemen voor de 5e keer dit seizoen. De Oostenrijker dus vroegtijdig uit de race. Hier Senna, op zoek, echt op zoek kunnen we dat niet noemen, naar Nigel Mansell. Daarvoor is het verschil tussen de Brit en de Braziliaan veel te groot. Dus aan de lijn.
He's driving for points. He's 24 seconds behind Mansell in 2nd place now, and Senna knows that he's got a better car coming for the German Grand Prix. He's hanging on to his World Championship lead. He leads Patrese by 24 points, and he's on another 4 points at the present moment. It's 10 points for a win, 6 for 2nd place, 4 for 3rd, although Jean Alesi there in the Ferrari, number 28, whose highest finish this year was 3rd position at Monaco, is chasing the Brazilian very hard indeed. But Senna will resist. He wants every point he can get because all the points count in the World Championship this year, unlike in the past, where the situation was the best 11 results out of 16 races. So, on lap 16, it's still Prost leading Mansell, but the gap has come down to 2.1 seconds, with Mansell lapping 0.2 of a second faster than the Frenchman. Senna well back now, just ahead of Jean Alesi, the battle that you're looking at the present moment. Riccardo Patrese is still inching up on Alesi. He's 7 seconds behind him now on Patrese. He's inching up on him now. Piquet is 6th, Moreno is 7th, Gugelmin is still 8th, Boutsen is 9th in the Ligier. That's very good for that car. 10th is Modena, 11th Martini, and in 12th position is Eric Comas. So both the Ligiers are in the top 12 places.
Riccardo Patrese has not, at the moment, found anything of his qualifying form, in which, once again, he out-qualified teammate Mansell, this time by 0.3 of a second. But at the moment, he's lapping some second a lap, about a second a lap slower than Prost and Mansell. And if it's, as I suspect, although he did have problems, all the leaders had problems this morning in the warm-up. The organisers, in their infinite wisdom, washed the circuit last night, and that has changed it completely. And there was a great deal of head-scratching by the leading teams this morning, as the handling that they'd had yesterday and the day before was quite spectacularly changed. And Patrese was one of those victims, but Mansell also wasn't happy with his handling, but I'm sure they were working along the same lines. And if I was Patrese, to try and rectify the situation, I think I'd try and go for the earliest possible tyre stop. It's too early yet, but tyres are going to be a factor in this race, and getting onto a fresh set if he's got problems could be a sensible thing to do.
So, Mark Blundell in the Brabham is in 15th place. Martin Brundle, his teammate, is 2 seconds behind him in 16th place. Johnny Herbert not in the top 20 at the present moment. And Nigel Mansell, of course, in 2nd place, 1.8 seconds behind the man you're watching, Alain Prost. Prost. Remember, the gap was 2.5 seconds. Mansell is charging, and now they're coming up. There is Johnny Herbert in the Lotus, the man with the red and white helmet. The Judd V8 engine, of course, hasn't got anything like the power of Prost's Ferrari. Now, remember, I told you this is a very, very difficult circuit to pass on. And Prost has got to get past Herbert. It's giving Nigel Mansell the opportunity to close up on the Ferrari. And in front of Johnny Herbert, there are three other drivers, and they are Michele Alboreto in the footwork, Thierry Boutsen and Andrea De Cesaris. Now, there is Alboreto, and the footwork, for the first time this year, is using a Hart Ford-based DFR engine, and Prost is trying to get past the Italian. He knows that Mansell is closing all the time. Prost has got past Herbert. Now he's got past Alboreto. What about Nigel Mansell?
Yes, worrying time for the leaders with all this traffic. And talking of the footwork team, brings us to an interesting point in that having got rid of Alan Jenkins's friend Porsche out of the team have replaced it with another friend of Alan Jenkins, namely Stefan Johansson, who's also failed to qualify, rather like the Porsche engine. I throw this in as an observation. What does anybody think?
Well, Prost now leading Mansell by 1.5 seconds. Nigel continuing to lap faster. Now there is Prost. He's getting through the traffic very well. This is something that Ayrton Senna is renowned for doing well, getting past the traffic. That's Olivier Grouillard in the Bond Metal with the Hart engine. He caused a lot of trouble by spraying oil all over the circuit during qualifying, as a result of which Ayrton Senna went off without harm at the end of his fast lap. But now Prost has got through. He's got a clear circuit almost, and Nigel Mansell has got Grouillard to tackle now. And so on lap 19 in this 72-lap race, the leaders are already lapping the tail-enders and midfield men. There's Herbert in the background, and the race order is still Prost leading Mansell by 1.5 seconds. Senna is 27.5 seconds now behind Mansell's Williams. So there's a big, big gap. Fourth position, LAC just behind Senna. Fifth is Patrese, who is 5 seconds behind LAC, so he's catching the Ferrari all the time. Sixth is Piquet in the Benetton. Seventh is Gugelmin. Eighth is Moreno. Ninth is Modena. 10th Martini. 11th Comas. 12th is Suzuki. Mark Blundell is 14th. Martin Brundle is in 16th place. And Johnny Herbert is 20th. And the fastest lap so far in the French Grand Prix is that of Nigel Mansell, lap 14, 1 minute 20.9, and that of course is a lap record. First time the circuit's been used. There is Mansell, who finished, of course, second in Mexico and second at Monaco. And is well clear now of Olivier Grouillard. So the race settles down for the moment. But it's quite astounding after we have got used to the McLaren Honda with its V12 engine being so dominant, as Alain Prost, with the yellow flashes on his wings, comes up to lap the Jordan of Andrea De Cesaris, who is just behind one of the Brabhams. It's Martin Brundle.
Here's an interesting test for De Cesaris. He's done everything right this year, relatively speaking, and he hasn't had much practice at being lapped, because the Jordan and he have been going that well. Is he going to be looking in his mirrors and be helpful to Prost? Nope. He's too busy having his own race, but at least he gets inside the Brabham. But that won't help Prost or please him. Oh dear.
Yeah, De Cesaris moves up to 17th place, and because Prost fails to get past, you see Nigel Mansell is now right on the gearbox almost of the Ferrari. There is the picture. On the left, Alain Prost, and that is considerably less than 1.5 seconds. And here is the Tyrrell of Satoru Nakajima hitting the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini, well, just failing to, actually. And still Prost now. This is a race. This is the race for the lead on lap 21. Alain Prost has been caught well and truly by Nigel Mansell and is being held up. The Frenchman's got to get past.
Yes, it's the old story there that got him. It was back markers too busy with their own race. And Mr. Cesaris, who managed to win his little battle, then past the Brabham, but he certainly messed Prost around. And Mansell right on his tail.
Having done the previous lap 2.1 seconds faster than the bulk to Alain Prost to close up right with the Ferrari, which is now going past Andrea de Cesaris, and Mansell challenging for the lead, and Prost moves over, and Nigel Mansell leads the French Grand Prix on lap 22. He has closed from 2.5 seconds to leadership. Terrific.
Yes, a truly fine bit of overtaking there by Mansell. Good opportunist stuff, and he really is a master race driver. There's no doubt about it that Mansell can really race, because that was excellent. And he put it right across Prost. Prost knew where he was. Marvellous bit of outbraking. So, Brave, right down the inside. The action replay here. Mansell not worried about getting close to the grass. He's already got the corner inside. Prost moves wide now to try and get across in front of him. But Mansell has got his car in the way. He's holding the inside, and there's nothing Prost can do. And that was a marvellous bit of opportunism by Nigel Mansell.
And just for the record, it happened at the Adelaide hairpin on lap 22 after he had braked from 175 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. And Mansell goes across the line, having completed 22 laps, and now leads Alain Prost by 7/10 of a second, pulling away. In fact, Mansell's last lap, 1 minute 22.8. Prost's last lap, 1 minute 24. So the Williams and Mansell are lapping 1.2 seconds faster than the Ferrari. You can see the result as they come down to the hairpin again, down through the gears, from 6th to 5th to 4th to 3rd to 2nd. Mansell the man, he leads. Can he win here in France? He's failed to do so yet this year, and the traffic problem is still there. Nigel Mansell coming up now. Let's see who it is. I think it's probably Thierry Boutsen, and now we are riding with Nigel Mansell. You can see the Union Jack helmet just to the left of your picture. There's the Williams, and he's really closing up, hand over fist. And he goes through and takes JJ Leto's Dallara Judd with the V10 engine. The caption there gives you the positions, and you can see that Senna is still staving off Jean Alesi. Senna in 3rd position, Jean Alesi in 4th place. And still 5th, Riccardo Patrese, who is now only 3.1 seconds behind Jean Alesi and closing all the time. 5th position, Piquet 6th.
Dat toen binnenkwam voor banden, dat is inmiddels achterhaald. Hij moet ook problemen gehad hebben met een loskomende motorkap. En heeft dan van die gelegenheid natuurlijk geprofiteerd, zoals men vaak doet als men voor een of ander mankement in de pits komt om vers rubber te laten steken. Maar niet alleen maar banden voor Thierry Boutsen, ook problemen met een loskomende motorkap. Dus op het moment dat het gebeurde reed hij in 9e positie, waar hij op dit moment zit. Dat weten we voorlopig niet, maar dat proberen we zo snel mogelijk voor u te achterhalen. Althans.
And a run at the traffic. So the view from Mansell, a very ominous one with 2 slow cars in front in the immediate foreground, and then, well, there's one he's slid past. That's Tyrrell of Stefano Modena, I think. His back view, and he is normally a pretty responsible driver, and Mansell doesn't wait to see whether he's going to be helped. He just charges through anyway. No problem at all. So Mansell over the line, and Prost is right with him. Prost was making up progress, making up places as well past the back markers. And these two, this is a private battle between Mansell and Prost. They've left the rest really way behind, courtesy of Ayrton Senna, who I think has certainly held up Jean Alesi for all these laps. And the gap now is some 26 seconds between Prost in 2nd place and Senna in 3rd, and Patrese is only just edging his way up to Alesi, who's just following Senna without ever showing any real threat of passing him. In fact, he hasn't really been in close passing range, but he sat always just a second or so, between a second and 2.5 seconds behind Senna.
And sadly, Martin Brundle and his Brabham Yamaha have retired from the French Grand Prix, and Jonathan is in the pit lane. Jonathan Palmer is in the pit lane with Martin Brundle.
Martin, it seemed that you're in some sort of trouble for a few laps there. The lap time's dropping off. What actually happened before that pit stop?
Well, I started to lose the use of third gear. I could get round that by going straight from second to fourth. But then, unfortunately, I started to lose some of the others. You overload the gearbox, and we've had to call it a day, I'm afraid.
Right, you've been running on Pirelli tyres. Obviously, there's Pirelli in a Goodyear match. How are the tyres comparing as far as you can tell?
Not as good as we'd hoped. We hoped the surface temperature was going to be much hotter this afternoon. In fact, we got some cloud cover, so I don't think we're truly competitive today.
Martin, thanks very much indeed. Murray.
Lap 26 out of 72. Nigel Mansell leading Alain Prost by 1.8 seconds and pulling away, creating a bit of a dilemma for the French crowd. Obviously, they want their hero, Alain Prost, to win for the 6th time in France, but they will know that Nigel Mansell is being propelled by a French Renault V10 engine, which they would also like to see out in front, as it is now. So Nigel Mansell, already the hero of Britain and the hero of Australia, looks as though he's going to become the hero of France too at the present rate. He leads on lap 26. Alain Prost, I've told you the gap. Senna is 26 seconds behind. 2 seconds ahead of Alesi, who is 2 seconds ahead of Patrese. So very soon we're going to see 3 cars virtually together battling for 3rd position. Those 3 being Senna, Alesi and Patrese. Piquet is well back, but in 6th position in the points. Gugelmin in 7th. Moreno is in 8th position in the Benetton. In 9th place it's Martini, 10th is Bernard, 11th is Suzuki, 12th is Mark Blundell, and Johnny Herbert in the Lotus is in 16th position. Now Mansell on the fastest part of the course as we look at the Benetton. And there's Mansell in the background, coming up now to lap the Lola as Alain Prost dodges out behind the slipstream and laps a tail ender. But Mansell is dealing with the traffic absolutely superbly as into the pits comes Riccardo Patrese. Now there he is, tyre change.
Yes, and I think he's doing the right thing, as this is just an early tyre stop because he's making no progress. He's got cars in front of him. If he can get out now, the balance improves and he can lap in the same sort of speed or quicker than Mansell and Prost. He can come fighting back to the field. He won't catch the slower back markers yet. And he should have a nice clear track as well to do some quick laps, and that may stand him in very good stead when everybody else makes their tyre stop. Could be good tactics.
Not a particularly scintillating stop. We're riding with Patrese now, 12.2 seconds. You reckon on 7 seconds to be a really good one nowadays. And this gives you a very good idea of what the Nevers circuit at Magny-Cours looks like. And we're building up now with Riccardo Patrese. He's up doing about 155 miles an hour as he approaches the Nürburgring, which he goes through at about 130 miles an hour, the right and the left, up to 150, down to the second slowest corner on the course, the 180 degree it's called for a fairly obvious reason, 55 miles an hour. Then out through the gears and into the pits comes Ayrton Senna, 3rd position, and this is lap 28. Ayrton Senna then, and oh, what a absolutely fabulous pit stop. 5.5 seconds, and that will have helped his position a great deal. Ayrton Senna, that's I think that's the 2nd quickest pit stop I've ever seen in Grand Prix racing. And the order now on lap 28 is Nigel Mansell leading Alain Prost. We expected the McLaren to come in for a tyre stop. It's by no means certain that others will do so.
That tyre stop was so quick, I'm surprised the driver was ready. And Senna dropped just 1 place because, of course, remember that Patrese had already stopped a lap earlier behind him. and made a much longer pit stop, but that was a truly fabulous tyre stop. In fact, they did it so quickly I didn't even notice whether they changed the rears, but I'm sure they must have done. And as Prost himself is in, and so the cascade of tyre stops has started. That's a 7-second one for Alain Prost, keeping the mechanics of the teams well on their toes. And a fine stop by the Ferrari team as well. Now there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Williams team to turn Nigel Mansell round quickly when the time comes. And I would think it's not very far away, depending on the traffic situation.
Well, this is really, really riveting stuff, as Alain Prost, having changed the tyres on his V12 Ferrari, comes up behind the Dallara, the sole Dallara, because Emanuele Pirro failed to pre-qualify, and it is JJ Leto, the Finnish driver, and Prost is sandwiched between Leto and Johnny Herbert in the Lotus Judd. Nigel Mansell leading, of course. Jean Alesi had gone up into third position. We will need to wait until the end of this lap to see how things have settled down, but you can see that there's a massive crowd watching this race. It's a very difficult circuit to get to. It's a long way from anywhere, and you get to it through country lanes and enormous traffic jams, but they persevered and they're seeing a race to remember.
And Mansell stayed out for one more lap, and I think I saw him give a wave to his pit then as he went past our window, and indicating that he's coming in next lap. He can do that on the radio, but nothing like good old visual signals to confirm things. The radios are a bit difficult to hear over. And Prost's stop has left him 18 seconds behind Mansell at the moment. But remember, Mansell still has to stop. Alesi now is in third place because Senna's dropped back to fourth after his stop. 11 seconds behind Prost, but of course he still has to stop. So Prost's position is false and is in reality better relative to Mansell and Alesi, who are sandwiching him on the circuit. Senna in fourth place, he has already stopped, and Alesi is going to be very pushed to get out and keep his place in front of Senna. Sixth place still Patrese. Patrese now going quickly on his fresh rubber. He's in fifth. And we await Mansell's stop at the end of this lap, we expect.
And I'm watching now because Mansell is going through. There he is. You can see him going through at the end of his 30th lap into lap 31. And he will be leading Alain Prost by some 18 seconds. And it's going to be crucial when the Englishman comes in. The race order now then on lap 31. Mansell leading Prost. Alesi is in third position. And of course Ayrton Senna is in fourth place. Patrese fifth, Piquet sixth.
Yes, and this is what I feared. Mansell is staying out too long because Prost, a blistering new fastest lap on fresh rubber, and he's making time on the circuit. And Mansell, because of staying out, may well not be able, no matter how quick the tyre stop, as we see Alesi in for his tyre stop in the Ferrari, but he's going to lose his place to Senna, I'm sure, so he'll stay behind Senna on the road. As the Williams team looking a little bit panicky, waiting for Mansell, but I'm afraid they have blown it, or Mansell has blown it. If Prost continues this pace on a clear road, he's going to reduce that gap. They've only got 17 seconds as they cross the line then on Prost, and that's not enough to decelerate and accelerate, as well as changing four wheels and tyres, or it's very, very tight.
Coming up to half distance, and there is the race order in the caption. And Senna and McLaren, who won in Phoenix, Brazil, San Marino and Monaco. Then we had Piquet winning in the Benetton in Canada. Patrese winning in the Williams Renault. And into the pits now comes Nigel Mansell. And I'm going to watch very carefully to see what the gap is as Alain Prost approaches in second place. In fact, Alain Prost goes through. He leads. And Alain Prost re-leads the French Grand Prix as Nigel Mansell rejoins after 10.5 seconds.
Well, that was poor tactics by Mansell and the Williams team. He really should have followed Prost in, and not more than 2 laps later, and preferably the very next lap, because on fresh rubber you pull in time pretty quickly on the car that you're chasing, and that cost them the lead, or cost them any chance of the lead. To be fair, there was no guarantee if they'd stopped the very next lap they would have it, but that way they guaranteed that they couldn't re-emerge in the lead. However, from our point of view, that's no bad thing, because if Mansell puts on one of his charges, it means we've got an exciting race ahead of us. Mansell will give you the gap at the end of this lap, but he's got quite a few seconds on Prost he's going to have to make up before he can get stuck into the battle. We'll have to see how he settles on his fresh rubber. Prost was not so quick on the last lap, but that may have been traffic. We were a bit busy watching Mansell. Time?
And this is lap 32 in this 72-lap race, with Alain Prost having retaken the lead as a result of that tyre stop. Ayrton Senna back into third place ahead of Jean Alesi as a result of his tremendously quick tyre stop. Alesi fourth, Riccardo Patrese is in fifth place, and the people who have changed tyres are, of course, Patrese, Senna, Prost, Alesi and Nigel Mansell as the Williams goes through, and the gap is 5.3 seconds between race leader, there he is, Alain Prost on his 33rd lap out of 72. So another 39 laps still to go, and this is where Prost can be caught again by Nigel Mansell because he's back in the traffic. Watch it.
He certainly is. He's got a huge gaggle in front of him, and if they're all busy with each other battling away, that's going to be a problem for Prost. They certainly don't seem to be helping him. Mansell should be really hunting him down now.
Eric Bernard, the Frenchman, waves his countryman through. Eric Bernard in the Larousse Lola. They've had money problems, but as a result of a special legal arrangement, they have been partly resolved, and they're going to continue in racing definitely for the rest of this season. So Alain Prost scything his way through the traffic, but all the time Nigel Mansell gaining on him. And we'll be able to see. Now, there is Moreno. Behind him is Martini. Then that is Suzuki, who is about to be caught by Alain Prost. And what a line of traffic. And in the background, behind the Jordan Ford, you saw Nigel Mansell, who is now 3.5 seconds behind Alain Prost, the race leader, coming up behind the Lola now.
Yes, and I'd back Mansell to be much more effective in this sort of heavy traffic than Alain Prost. He's more forceful, and he's more prepared to take his car offline and attack. As we see him going in the background there, I saw Mansell ducking out to pass the Jordan, I think it was.
And it looked to me as though Aguri Suzuki in the Larousse Lola was dropping out of the race. That's Martini, who has got Alain Prost tucked up behind him, and Pierluigi Martini is in 9th position. So Prost now has lapped everybody up to 8th position, and in that 8th place is Roberto Moreno in the Benetton Ford. Now,
waar ook maar lichte touchettes, en dan kan dat vaak best meevallen. Waar zit Nigel Mansell? Hinder komt hij. Achter Martini en Eric Bernard moet dat zijn. En Prost zit nu in het spoor van Roberto Moreno. Zou Moreno nog altijd in 8e positie rijden? Dat was daar straks.
Yes, and I have to say that the tyre change and Mansell in the traffic has pulled up about a second on Prost, just under 2.5 seconds. The gap, but of course it's not really about the time gap on the circuit at the moment, it's about the traffic that they're amongst and who can emerge best, and the time gap will only matter when they're both out of it, as Prost sneaks through, and Prost now has the clear circuit, and that was Moreno who let him go, quite rightly, and Mansell, and now Mansell has to start worrying because he has got 1, 2, 3, something like 3-4 cars to pass before he can start chasing Alain Prost, and Prost has a clear bit of track ahead of him. Mansell's really made up ground. Just got a glimpse of him in the background there.
Nigel Mansell has done it once in this race, he can do it again, and by that I mean catch and pass Alain Prost, who's coming through now to complete the lap. Over the line he goes now, and Nigel Mansell is behind Moreno. The gap is 3.4 seconds, so Prost has pulled away as a result of Moreno unintentionally holding up Mansell.
Yes, I don't think for much longer, and Mansell will relish battling Prost in heavy traffic, because he's got to be favourite in the heavy traffic, and I think this is going to go on now intermittently for the rest of the race, unless we get a lot of retirements. And quite frankly, as we've seen once already in this race, I would back Mansell to wait, bide his time, and his opportunism will catch a moment when Prost's a little bit thrown amongst the traffic and he'll dive through. Prost, in the meantime, will be very anxious to try and stretch this lead to give himself a cushion for dealing with the traffic. He would like, ideally, to have at least 7 or 8 seconds, preferably 10, on Mansell, because you can easily lose 5 seconds with a bit of bad balking in the traffic, just in one little incident. Behind, Riccardo Patrese seems to have failed to be able to reproduce the form that we had from him in Mexico, and of course in Montreal before, and in qualifying here, and that would appear that he never got his balance right. The change of tyres didn't seem to help his ability to lap quickly on his own, and he struggled in the warm-up this morning, and whatever they did, a lot of people struggled, and some of them got it right, but it looks as if Patrese wasn't one of them.
Alain Prost coming up to lap Maurizio Gugelmin in the Leighton House with its Ilmor V10 engine, and this is the highest that Gugelmin has been this year. The Leighton House team's had a dreadful year, but they're going much better on the smooth surface of this Magny-Cours circuit, as they did at Paul Ricard last year, when Capelli led for a long time with his teammate Gugelmin in second place. Now, Gugelmin is making it difficult for Prost to get past, is he? No, he moves over politely. Is he going to do the same thing for Nigel Mansell? This is an encouraging race for Ferrari. Cesare Fiorio, their previous team manager, got the old heave-ho after the Monaco Grand Prix for not having done well enough by his management standards, and he was replaced by a triumvirate, which we thought would probably not do very well, but as a result of all the work that had been put in hand in terms of producing a new car, the results are here to see. Prost leading, Mansell there in second place, completing lap 37 out of 72, into the last corner and out of it. The gap was 4.3 seconds on the previous lap. It's down to 2.6 seconds now, and Mansell has lapped in 1 minute 19.7, which is the fastest lap of the race, compared with Prost in 1 minute 21.4. Mansell is flying.
No, Prost has just done a 1:19.8 the previous lap, so but he got traffic last time, and so once again it is the traffic, and we got yellow flags on the start-finish line here. Somebody's hit the wall very hard indeed.
For somebody being Mark Blundell, who joins his teammate Martin Brundle. Both the Brabhams out, and that's very bad news for Brabham. They desperately needed at least a 7th place here in France, or Silverstone at the British Grand Prix next weekend, to avoid the dreaded pre-qualification. Well, they're clearly not going to get that 7th place at the moment, and in the 7th place at the moment is Maurizio Gugelmin, which will help the Leighton House team in their point scoring situation. You don't actually get a point for 7th place, but it's not unlikely that one of the top 6 is going to drop out before this race ends. This is lap 38, with Prost leading Mansell, who is going faster than the Ferrari, and the gap is 2.7 seconds. Senna is still 27 seconds behind in 3rd position, just about 2.5 seconds in front of Jean Alesi in the 2nd Ferrari. So Ferrari are 1st and 4th. Riccardo Patrese is making no impression on Alesi at all. He's 8 seconds behind. Nelson Piquet is 39 seconds behind Patrese in 6th place. Gugelmin is 7th as Prost goes through and passes 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford. And you can see now the configuration of this circuit. That's one of the chicanes that the drivers don't like too much. They're doing about 150 miles an hour as they go underneath the banner there. This is the Nürburgring section. Now the long 180-degree left-hander. And you can see Prost there. There's Piquet sandwiched between the Ferrari and the Williams, and he is in 6th place. And that's Mark Blundell's broken Brabham. So Prost has left everybody up to 5th position, and Jonathan Palmer is with Mark Blundell in the pit lane.
Mark, you seem to be having some trouble there. The lap timers were going a little bit slowly, a little bit more slowly each lap. Finish straight.
Lap 30, and you can see now that Mansell has passed Piquet and is closing up on Prost. 1 minute 20.4 was Mansell's last lap. 1 minute 21.1 was Prost's last lap. The result is that Mansell is now only 2.2 seconds behind the Ferrari as Thierry Boutsen turns into the corner in his Ligier, and Boutsen is well down the field now. But it's all eyes at the front now. Now let's have another try for Jonathan Palmer with Mark Blundell.
Mark, it looked like you're in some sort of handling trouble. You've had a fairly major accident now on the start-finish straight. The left-hand side looking very sorry indeed. What happened?
Basically, to run our car this weekend, we had to run it very, very stiff. And it looks like we've paid the penalty for it because the rear traction was going on the tyres. Unfortunately, we just got onto the curb there and they broke away from me.
Very sad. Sorry about that. Back to you, Murray.
Two of the most experienced men in Grand Prix racing, hammer and tongs for the lead. Nigel Mansell in his 156th Grand Prix. Alain Prost in his 175th Grand Prix. And Mansell is closing, but he's got to get past the Ferrari even if he gets on the gearbox of it. They've both got semi-automatic gearboxes, incidentally, these two cars, the Ferrari and the Williams. And we are into lap 40 out of 72. As you see, Mansell is the fastest on the circuit, 120 miles an hour nearly.
Yes, he just shaved on that last lap, another bit less than a tenth off his previous fastest lap. Prost still lapping pretty much the same speed, just a fraction slower, and the two of them in a class of their own today, not far away from lapping the whole field. Well, half a minute ahead of Senna. If their leading pace continues as furiously, they could be just about lapping Senna by the end of the race. And this is something that didn't look that likely of the first couple of races this season, except to the real cognoscenti. Watch from Mansell's car. Good view of Alain Prost in front. Stretches away as he gets on the power. That gives you a good idea of just how enormous the acceleration of these Formula One cars is. Just getting on the power that half a second ahead of the other car, and they have really disappeared. Over the line. Mansell still lapping quicker, still just over a second behind Alain Prost, and then once he gets into that envelope of around about a second, the grip performance of his Williams will deteriorate on this twisty circuit because he's in the turbulent air from Alain Prost's Ferrari, and his wing surfaces won't work as well. The car won't be pushed down onto the road to get the grip that it needs. And here we have, oh dear, that's a very seriously deflated, well, punctured rear
of JJ Leto, the Finnish driver. It's a bad race meeting for the Dallara team because Emanuele Pirro failed to pre-qualify. JJ Leto goes out with an obviously deflated left rear tyre coming off the rim. And now Alain Prost closes on Thierry Boutsen, the Frenchman in the Ligier Lamborghini, who is in 17th position to lap the Belgian driver Thierry Boutsen. He's already been lapped twice, so this will be the third time that the Ferrari's gone past him. And Mansell, meanwhile, is right up with the V12 in front of him now. V10 Renault chases V12 Ferrari, the Renault in the Williams chassis and the Ferrari in a chassis of the same make. Nigel Mansell, who so very nearly won the Canadian Grand Prix, getting down to the last corner before rolling into retirement, having finished in second place in Monaco and Mexico. He's bidding for victory in France. Boots in his lap for the third time by Prost, now by Nigel Mansell, and still Ayrton Senna is soldiering on, no other way to describe it, looking for those 4 points for third position, ahead of Jean Alesi, who can do nothing about the McLaren in front of him. You're looking at the Ferrari now of Alain Prost from the cockpit of Nigel Mansell's Williams Renault. And let's identify where they are on the course. They're on the section between the 180-degree bend and what's called Imola, the right and the left, which they take at 125 miles an hour. This is it, down to the Chateau d'Eau in second gear, 60 miles an hour, up into third, accelerating downhill, under the bridge towards the end of the lap. This is 150 miles an hour, back into second gear. Look how close Nigel Mansell is at the end of lap 43. Senna is 33 seconds now behind Mansell. All the action is at the front because Senna is keeping clear of Alesi, just for the record. Alesi in fourth position, Patrese is fifth, 12 seconds behind the Ferrari of Alesi. Nelson Piquet is 45 seconds behind Patrese in sixth place. Gugelmin is seventh, Bernard is eighth, Moreno is ninth, Cesaris is 10th in the Jordan. Johnny Herbert is in 11th place, and look at Mansell. Well, look at Prost, because that's him ahead. Alain Prost, 36 years old, 3 times world champion, his 175th Grand Prix, 44 wins, more than anybody else in the history of Grand Prix racing. An amazing 677.5 World Championship points. The man who scored more World Championship points in a season than anybody else, 105 in 1988.
Ontwikkeld. Herhaal ik nog even de posities op 28 ronden van het einde. 1 Prost, 2 Mansell, 3 Senna, 4 Alesi, 5 Patrese en 6 Piquet. Wat de nummers 3, 4, 5 en 6 betreft geen veranderingen. En dat is nu zoal rondelang. Je ziet het daar mooi aangegeven. Piquet op 1 ronde. Dat hebben we daar straks gezien, hoe Prost en Mansell de Braziliaan dubbelden. Maar nu kunnen we ons weer volop concentreren op dit topduel tussen Prost en Nigel Mansell. Ik heb geen beeld meer. Brussel heeft ook geen beeld meer. Alles is weg, zegt men. Dat is bijzonder jammer. Hopelijk wordt dat zo snel mogelijk hersteld. Alles was meteen weg. Klank weg, beeld weg. Wij blijven ondertussen voor u, dames en heren, wel luisteren naar de buitenlandse zenders. Maar hier kan ik natuurlijk weinig mee beginnen. Voorlopig dus een probleem tussen Magny-Cours en de Rijerslaan in Brussel. Wat is daar fout gelopen? Ergens halverwege. Maar we proberen u dus op de hoogte te houden van de ontwikkelingen in Magny-Cours. Het verschil tussen Prost. Mooi is dat. Gelukkig hersteld. Het verschil tussen Prost en Mansell is ondertussen toch weer een klein beetje gegroeid.
The problem is to get past Prost, particularly without the help of traffic. There just isn't a decent straight to get set up on this circuit, and we saw Nigel do it once, but he was in the middle of traffic, and that certainly was distracting Prost. Enabled Nigel to make an opportunist stab, which with his great skill of overtaking was entirely successful. But I think he'd need help like that to do it again. If they've got no traffic, I think Prost's going to be a very hard man to pass on straight merit. Remember, the problem is that the closer you get to the car in front, the less grip you have in your car because of the aerodynamic interference. The turbulence in the car in front means your wing surfaces don't work and you lose grip. So once you get within a second of the car in front, it's a vicious circle, and the closer you get, the less grip you have. and that makes overtaking extremely difficult.
17 out of the 26 starters are still running on lap 46 of the French Grand Prix, which is going to be a 72-lap race. Now, the gap on the lap before last was 1.1 seconds. It went up to 1.5 with Prost getting past Griard before Mansell did. It's down to 1.2 again, with Mansell lapping marginally faster than the Ferrari. And I'm sure it's going to be traffic that decides who is going to win the French Grand Prix. Both these cars look reliable. The new Ferrari with its V12 much modified engine. The Renault engine in the Williams. That car engine combination has been improved enormously with patient work by Patrick Head, the Williams designer, Bernard Dudot, the Renault engine designer, and their colleagues, into a race-winning package, as proved by Ricardo Patrese in Mexico.
I get the impression that with the rubber going down, that the circuit is starting to return now in its conditions to yesterday's form, because we've got now Senna and Alesi are starting to make progress in terms of their lap times. They're now lapping nearly as quickly as Prost and Mansell out front, and in the early part of the race they were quite unable to do that. Patrese, conversely, is making no progress really in 5th place, and has been in fact losing ground to Senna and Alesi.
And Alain Prost has just lapped Eric Comas there in the Blue Ligier with its V12 Lamborghini engine. Comas is in 13th position, and Prost is now capitalising, and Mansell gives a wave, and not a very happy wave, to Comas as he goes past him, and Alain Prost goes past Stefano Modena in the Tyrrell, who is in 12th position, and Nigel Mansell's got to catch the Italian and get past him as Prost comes up to complete very shortly his 48th lap out of 72. Looking now at Modena's Tyrrell Honda with a V10 engine, unlike the V12 of Ayrton Senna and Gerhard Berger, who started this race but was the first to retire on lap 8. And now this is Nigel Mansell going past, and he does it at the Imola bends. Down to the Chateau d'Eau again. Well, this is the end of lap 48. Here is Alain Prost. That was 1.2 seconds. Prost goes through and completes the lap, and the gap has increased to 2.2 seconds. See, Prost was able to make better use of the traffic, and you can see now that he's pulled out quite a cushion over Nigel Mansell.
And I've just seen the fond metal go past smoking badly and possibly putting an oil slick down on the circuit.
Well, if he is, Griard will not be at all popular, because this is exactly what happened when an oil union worked loose in practice yesterday, and Griard drove round for 3 laps, consistently spraying oil over the circuit to the detriment of a lot of drivers, and Mika Hakkinen failed probably to qualify in the Lotus by about 3/100ths of a second because of that, and Ayrton Senna actually spun on Griard's oil. And we're on lap 49 now. Prost, Mansell, Senna 33 seconds behind the Williams and 2.6 seconds ahead of Alesi's Ferrari 4th.
Yes, well, as you were saying, I was just having a look at the track. I can't actually see a line of oil there and no oil flag, so maybe at the moment it was being burnt. And there is Griard, and there is the smoke from the back, yes, and it doesn't appear, it appears to be only being spread about in smoke form at the moment, obviously going onto the exhaust pipe. But if it becomes more of a gusher, some of that will get onto the track in liquid slippery form.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what happened yesterday. Griard was driving around the circuit with a great gout of oily smoke pouring out of the back of his car, and he said he's just coming into the end of the lap now, I think to retire, because he's coming into the pit lane. Yes, and he said he couldn't see the oil smoke in his mirrors, and as you see, Nigel Mansell is now the fastest man on the circuit. 1 minute 19.168 to close within 1.5 seconds of Prost, as Griard draws up underneath my commentary position, and I'm looking down on the mechanics who have been spraying fire extinguisher fluid on the rear of the car. Griard is getting out to retire, so the Frenchman's race is run. 1 World Championship point in his career when he finished 6th in the French Grand Prix for the Ligier team. But look at this, what a charge by Nigel Mansell. Lap 50. Edging up on Alain Prost, who's just as keen to win his 6th French Grand Prix as Nigel Mansell will be to win his first Grand Prix of 1991, and in the process, if he does so, to become the greatest Englishman in terms of Grand Prix victories. That's the Ferrari ahead.
Yes, this race vitally important for both these drivers in terms of pride, of course. Mansell with really a pretty tough season so far by his pretty high standards. He's been put over by Riccardo Patrese really throughout the season until possibly today, and I know that is certainly causing him some pain, and he needs the points to put his World Championship challenge on into the frame, and so does Alain Prost. Alain Prost certainly needs a win to have any chance of sustaining a championship challenge this year.
And Ayrton Senna, there he is, still in 3rd place, driving steadily round in 3rd position for those 4 points, is proving yet again what he said at the beginning of 1991 at Phoenix to be true. That is, that reliability will decide the world champion of 1991. And Senna is benefiting from the fact that nobody apart from him is winning Grand Prix or has won Grand Prix consistently.
Gezegd, hier in Magny-Cours is zo vlak als een biljarttafel. De eerste 6 nog altijd dezelfde. Prost, Mansell, Senna op 37 seconden. Dat is veel, dat is heel veel. Alesi die blijft op 3 seconden van Senna zitten, die we hier trouwens zien. Senna die op zijn beurt Nelson Piquet over weinige ogenblikken op een ronde gaat rijden. En Maurizio Gugelmin is volgens mij op dit moment nog altijd 7e. Leighton House, dat ook trouwens vorig jaar in deze grote prijs van Frankrijk uitstekend presteerde. Prost moest toen alles uit zijn kas halen om Ivan Capelli van zich af te houden. Capelli die trouwens enkele ronden aan de leiding reed en tweede eindigde in de Grand Prix vorig jaar op Le Castellet. Daar het verschil tussen Senna en Alesi, dat blijft constant iets van een 3 seconden. Maar ook die Leighton...
Alain Prost leading Mansell by just about a second. Senna 38 seconds behind as he comes up to lap Nelson Piquet in the Benetton. John Alesi is 3 seconds behind Ayrton Senna. Look for the Ferrari. You will see it in the background shortly. There it was. 5th position is Riccardo Patrese, who is well back now from Alesi's 4th position Ferrari. 6th is Piquet that you have just seen past, and 7th position is Maurizio Gugelmin, 8th is De Cesaris, 9th is Moreno, 10th is Johnny Herbert in the Lotus, 1 lap down, as is Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi Ferrari in 11th place. Modena is 2 laps down in 12th place. Eric Comas is 13th in the Ligier, 2 laps down. Boutsen is 14th. Briard is 15th, and that's about it.
And we've just heard from the pits that Patrese has gearbox problems, so that explains Patrese's relative disappointment in this race from pole position. He looked set to dominate possibly, and certainly to be right up battling for the lead, but the automatic gear, the semi-automatic gearbox on the Williams still causing them grief. And if anything becomes between the Williams team and the World Championship this year, it will without any doubt be their semi-automatic gearbox and the early use of it before it was fully developed. And that was Patrese for the night.
It was Jonah Lacey elbowing his way in 4th position past Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford in 6th place. And while that has happened, Nigel Mansell has closed yet again with a lap in 1 minute 19.8, and that is just 7/10 of a second outside his own lap record, but it's brought him to within a shout of Alain Prost. 6/10 of a second it was. It's probably less than that now, because we're looking at Jonah Lacey in 4th position, chasing Senna in the McLaren. There was the Brazilian, and Nigel Mansell is lapping about half a second faster than Alain Prost at the moment, and at the present rate of progress, that'll put him on the tail of the Ferrari in another lap. Senna still 3rd, Alesi still 4th.
Yes, and Senna still working very hard to try and get away from Alesi to give himself a little bit of peace and quiet. He's just put his fastest lap of the race together as we see Alain Prost. I think that looks like his back view going through past Piquet there. And Mansell.
Nigel Mansell right with, that was Alain Prost that we were looking at from the camera of Nigel Mansell's Williams, and you can see for yourself how close they are as they come through to complete lap 54, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 cars ahead of them that they will shortly catch, and this could be Nigel Mansell's golden opportunity to get past Alain Prost if the Frenchman fumbles the traffic. And look at the way the Williams is starting to close.
Yes, so this is fine driving by Mansell. He can see the cars in front, and he's getting himself into position and making Prost, I'm sure, feel very uncomfortable. And Mansell's trying to get around the outside. He's got in front of Prost around the outside. Now that is something else. Sensational stuff from Mansell to outbrake Alain Prost round the outside and just put yourself across his bows is great skill. It's also pretty brave. And the one thing you know with Prost is that he will avoid contact at all costs, with the possible exception of Japan last year. But those were special circumstances. And the year before, Japan's his special place for that.
So, Nigel Mansell, who caught, and here's a replay. There's Alain Prost. Mansell drives right up alongside him, gets half a car's length, moves across. Prost is forced back. That's absolutely legitimate, and Nigel Mansell takes the lead as he had done before, and you can see now he's behind his ailing teammate Riccardo Patrese as Prost goes through and takes Roberto Moreno, who is in 8th position.
Yes, and I think that manoeuvre rather got to Prost. I detected a little bit of anger then, the way he was going following Nigel past the back markers. He looked pretty angry into the hairpin, and so he should be embarrassed. He went to the inside to protect the corner, and Mansell saw the opportunity and just went straight to the outside, gave himself a much faster line to the corners. Prost tries again.
Yeah, and Patrese, I suspect, is helping Nigel Mansell there. He's let Mansell through. He can see Prost behind him. He knows he's got no chance in this race, which at the present moment, on lap 56, is led by Nigel Mansell. There is Prost in 2nd position. Senna is 35 seconds behind in 3rd place, ahead of Alesi, who is 4th. Riccardo Patrese 5th, and Nelson Piquet in 6th position, 1 lap down.
Yes, and Patrese doing a very good supporting job there, despite his gearbox problems. And I wonder if his extra wheel spin at the start confused the gearbox when he probably over-revved in 1st and went to go to 2nd, and it took 3rd for him. Maybe especially with chicken and egg, really, which came first, whether spinning the wheels like that confused the computer brain or whether it was already a problem in there. But that's only theory, as Prost still trying to find a way past Riccardo Patrese, who is doing teammate Nigel Mansell one big favour.
Yes, the French motto at the Maginot Line in the last war was "they shall not pass," and that seems to be Riccardo Patrese's motto at the present moment, they being Prost and the Ferrari, because Nigel Mansell is now 2.9, nearly 3 seconds ahead of the Ferrari. He is on lap 57 out of 72. Bidding fair to win his first Grand Prix of 1991 as he comes up behind Herbert, and Prost is through.
En Prost zal risico's moeten nemen om de situatie nog recht te zetten en over Patrese te gaan. En hij is er nu over, wordt gezegd, terwijl we weer geen beeld meer hebben en dat is zo verschrikkelijk jammer. Maar we kunnen daar niets aan doen. Dat gebeurt tussen Frankrijk en Brussel. Wij zijn daar niet verantwoordelijk voor, maar we zitten wel met de gebakken peren. Maar we blijven... het is snel...
And the excellent Johnny Herbert, the winner of Le Mans in the rotary Mazda, is now in 9th position in his Lotus. There he is behind Mansell and ahead of Alain Prost, who is 3.2 seconds on lap 58 behind race leader Nigel Mansell, who is lapping faster than the Ferrari. In 3rd position it's still Ayrton Senna keeping ahead of the Ferrari of Jean Alesi. In fact, he's some 30 seconds ahead of him now. Riccardo Patrese, 5th, has been lapped, as you know. Nelson Piquet, 6th. Gugelmin, 7th. De Cesaris is in 8th position. And there goes Nigel Mansell. Oh, the Williams looking good. The Tars looking good. And Mansell, of course, will not have strained the gearbox the way Patrese did at the start. Into the pits comes Stefano Modena in his Tyrrell Honda to change the tyres.
And the body language of that arrival was a bit more fundamental than Tars. Came in a bit slowly, but it looks to me like, well, he's going out again, but it didn't look like a very committed hurry to me. And I think that Manicourt here, Pirelli are struggling with Tars because certainly the two Benettons, who have been their leading runners, have really fallen away during this race. So there is Mansell. And he's got a little bit of space. Back to Alain Prost, courtesy of the traffic and his charging driving. There's the caption, 14 laps to go. And Mansell now has a 4-second lead, just over 4 seconds on Alain Prost. As he went round that corner there, you got a good view of all the marbles on the track. That is the nickname for the balls of rubber that come off the tyres and form a sort of, well, they behave like marbles when you get on them, just off the racing line. And this track looks like one to be careful to stay in the groove here and not get out of it, because you'd have no grip at all.
Well, there are 7 winners of the French Grand Prix in the first 2 places, and if that sounds a bit odd, it's because Nigel Mansell won at the Paul Ricard circuit for Williams Honda in 86 and 87. Alain Prost won in 81, 83, and the last 3 years, 88, 89 and 90. And Nigel Mansell looks at the present moment like making it 3, this time with a Renault engine propelling him. And won't that be marvellous for France? The crowd and Renault, who have put so much into Grand Prix racing since they decided to return with an atmospheric engine after having the turbo engines. And Mansell crosses the line now. That is his 59th lap completed as Alain Prost goes through, nearly 4.5 seconds behind the Williams, which is lapping faster than the Ferrari and therefore pulling away. No change in the first 6. Riccardo Patrese goes through, having been lapped in 5th position, ahead of 3rd place man Ayrton Senna, 4th place man Jean Alesi. And Alesi, try as he may, can't close the gap between himself and Ayrton Senna, who has just lapped Eric Comas. Indeed, Senna is now 1.5 seconds. Well, I tell a lie, actually, because Alesi has, because of the traffic, closed up slightly on the world champion, twice Brazilian, in 3rd position, and Riccardo Patrese in 5th position has been lapped, as of course has Nelson Piquet in 7th place. Maurizio Gugelmin still going well in the Leighton House, Ilmore in 7th position. De Cesaris in the Jordan is 8th. Martini in the Minardi Ferrari is 9th. Johnny Herbert 10th. Roberto Moreno in the Benetton is 11th. Eric Comas is in 12th position. And here is the race leader, and he's on his 61st lap. But he's on his 62nd lap now. Now, round with Mansell into the 140 mile an hour left hand. And this is the Grand Courbe, 5th gear, 140 miles an hour into Estoril. And James was quite right when he said that Stefano Modina's tyre change looked like a very leisurely affair. He crept out of the pits and now he's creeping back in again, I think to stay there, because this looks like a retirement situation to me.
Yes, as Ayrton Senna goes by to complete his 60th lap. Some 30 seconds behind Mansell, so he's holding on gamely, but so is Alesi, still hounding Senna, just over 2 seconds behind him. He's never had him out of his sight during the race, and that makes for a harder race than you'd expect for Senna. Now Piquet coming into the pits. Is this for yet more tyres, more Pirellis? And it does seem to have been not their day. Whoops, oh, nearly dropped the revs. Nearly stalled it.
Well, underlining what I was saying earlier on, if Mansell stays where he is now, he will move into second place in the World Championship. But Senna, with another 4 points, will have increased his lead, ironically enough, from 24 points over Patrese to 25 points over Nigel Mansell. So regularity and reliability are proving to be the thing for Ayrton Senna and McLaren. McLaren, of course, way out in the Constructors' Championship, notwithstanding the fact that Gerhard Berger, who one must now describe as the number 2 driver to Ayrton Senna, who's got psychological dominance over the Austrian, has only finished in 2 races this year. Now there's Mansell, smooth, reliable. He's lapping in just under 1 minute 21 seconds every lap, whereas Alain Prost is lapping in just over 1 minute 21 seconds. And the result, of course, is that the gap is increasing by about half a second a lap. It's now 5.5 seconds. We're riding with the lead Williams now as Mansell skirts the right-hander, hugging the edge. Now this is the drop downhill underneath the bridge into the chicane. Right, left, hard on the brakes for the Lycée, which is the hairpin right to complete the lap, accelerating away past the pits up into 5th gear, 140 miles an hour into the left-hander, which leads into the 4th gear right-handed Grand Courbe as Prost goes through 5.5 seconds behind Mansell, having lapped marginally faster on his 62nd lap than the Williams. It'll be interesting to see whether Prost is trying to pull something out of the bag in the closing stages of the race to try for his 6th victory in France.
Yes, I think he's going to struggle. Mansell seems to just have the edge on this, seems to be controlling the race and looking pretty happy. Now, we've had a report from the pits that Modina's problem was transmission, and that comes as no surprise. This circuit, with its twists and turns, is for sure very hard on transmission. It's only saving grace for the transmission here is that it is fairly smooth.
Vraagt het verschil tussen die twee.
Have a look at the Ferrari. This is the new one. As I say that, the producer lets us have a look at the McLaren. Well, actually, you'll be able to see that these 2 cars are very similar. Try to ignore the livery, the red and white livery of the McLaren. And now there is Alesi in 4th position in the 2nd new Ferrari, which has got bodywork just like the McLaren. Jean-Claude Migeot left the Tyrrell team and went to Ferrari to design the new aerodynamics, as a result of which the Ferrari has got the uplifted nose like the Tyrrell that Harvey Postlethwaite designed. There it is, you can see for yourself. And that's Jean Alesi, and he's pressing very hard on Ayrton Senna now as the Brazilian comes through to complete his 64th lap. Now, that is Thierry Boutsen in the Ligier Lamborghini being passed by Alesi. And Senna is 2.8 seconds ahead of the Ferrari. There's nothing but track between the 3rd place McLaren and the 4th place Ferrari that you're looking at now. So if Alesi can close, now is the time to do it. Mansell, meantime, still leading Prost by 4.8 seconds on his 64th lap out of 72. Not very far to go in the French Grand Prix now. And Mansell's chance for his first Grand Prix win of 1991. having won, of course, for Ferrari in the previous 2 years and many times for Williams before that. And before he drove for Williams, he was with Lotus, for whom he nearly won in Monaco 1 year. And Andrea De Cesaris in the Jordan Ford moves up into 6th position. Eddie Jordan's team, brand new, which has done so brilliantly well in racing this year, is back in the points.
Yes, it's been hard work for them. Remember, De Cesaris had some contact and a spin early in the race, delayed him, so he's had to work very hard through the field. And up front, Alain Prost is putting in an effort. He is now working hard. He is slowly chipping away at Nigel Mansell's lead. But he's at a big disadvantage because it's the old story. He can chip away at the lead, he can catch Mansell, but the main part of the job is still not done, and that is the huge difficulty of actually overtaking him in a straight fight here. And Mansell is certainly the much more aggressive racer, and he'll defend that position very aggressively when he's got the lead as he goes through, passing Piquet, who's had a troubled race, at least 2 pit stops for tyres, and what the day for the Pirelli shod runners. Mansell can now have the luxury of controlling the race by watching Prost. He doesn't really have to race, and he will like having the Benetton between them, because that's a little bit of extra insurance. Prost's got to still find his way past Piquet.
And the gap is consistent, 4.5 seconds. Nigel Mansell on lap 66 out of 72. Fingers crossed, everybody who is a Nigel Mansell or a Williams Renault fan, because remember what happened to Nigel Mansell in Canada when, with victory securely in his grasp, up to the last corner he securely went, only to roll to a frustrated and frenzied standstill and lose first place and finish 6th. Well, he's on lap 66 now, and try as he may, I can't see Alain Prost closing this gap to catch Mansell, never mind get past him, unless the Englishman or the Williams Renault have a problem, and goodness me, they certainly do not deserve one. Mansell has driven brilliantly in this race to catch and pass Prost twice. In the opinion of many people, the greatest Grand Prix driver in the history of the sport, Alain Prost, and Mansell's caught and passed him twice. And Ayrton Senna, of course, in 3rd position, won't be too unhappy. He regards himself as having an inferior car now. He's playing for time and playing for points to give McLaren and Honda the opportunity to reinstate their winning position that they had at the beginning of this year by improving the car by Germany.
Well, now you saw the gap from Mansell. Oh, has Mansell got a problem? No. Oh. And that's Moreno, Roberto Moreno. He's been going slower and slower. Not a good day for the Benettons. That's a retirement. Meanwhile, Prost, as they came past us just a moment ago, was still behind Nelson Piquet in his Benetton, and therefore was losing ground to Mansell. Whether that was because he was no longer committed to the chase or got a problem, or whether it was just because he couldn't get past the Benetton, remains to be seen. We'll watch that.
Roberto Moreno, the cheerful little Brazilian, great friend of Nelson Piquet, was in 11th place when he retired. There he is, helmet off. He certainly looks a lot older than he is, Roberto Moreno. He's 32 years old, but that bald head of his makes him look a lot older. Meantime, that is Thierry Boutsen in 13th position. The Ligier not living up in the race to the promise that it showed. That's in practice. That's his teammate, Eric Comas, that we're looking at now. Comas is in 11th place, 2 laps down. Boutsen is in 13th place, 3 laps down. There are 13 runners left, exactly half out of the 26 who started. Nigel Mansell's fastest lap, 49, was the record lap, which stands, of course, 1 minute 19.168, and he's consistently increasing his lead over Prost now. It is 6.5 seconds as Roberto Moreno leans against the wall, relaxing. There are the 2 Ligiers of, on the left, Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian. On the right, Eric Comas, the European Formula 3000 champion of 1990 in the Dams Lola team. And you can see, those of you who are knowledgeable, that the side pods on the Ligier in this race are much deeper than they have been in the past, and that's made a big difference to their speed. That was a fleeting look at Nigel Mansell. You got, here he is, coming down to complete lap 68. So he's got lap 69, 70, 71 and 72 to go. Now, as he crosses the line, Nigel Mansell then leads, and we're waiting for Alain Prost. It's 6.9 seconds, and Mansell is pulling away, and I wonder what the atmosphere in the Williams pit is. Well, Jonathan Palmer is there, and he can tell us.
Well, of course, they've been in this situation only a few races ago at Montreal, and there's no complacency whatsoever about the Williams pit now. They've still got 4 tyres out in their blankets just in case there should be a drama. All the mechanics still standing by. People looking pretty apprehensive, obviously with fingers crossed this time.
Well, we can keep them firmly crossed, but things are looking good for Nigel Mansell. Those lumps on the road are bits of rubber that have come off the tyres. That is Frank Williams himself looking impassive, as he did in Canada when Nigel Mansell was almost home and dry for victory, the first of 1991 for the Englishman. And if Nigel Mansell wins, I should think this is going to put another £20,000 or £50,000 on the Silverstone gate for the British Grand Prix next weekend, because Silverstone is Nigel Mansell's circuit. He's always got a tremendous backing from the British crowd, which is worth about a second a lap to him, slight exaggeration, but Mansell will be on a terrific high if he wins here and goes to Silverstone next weekend, almost certainly in second position in the World Championship, albeit some 25 points behind Ayrton Senna, if the Brazilian finishes in the third place that he is holding now. And this is lap 70, just this, lap 71 and lap 72 to go, with Mansell now nearly 7 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. Senna is 38 seconds behind Prost, 2 seconds ahead of Alesi, who is 4th. Patrese is a lap down in 5th place. De Cesaris is still 6th in the Jordan.
Keep seeing Mansell's appeared to have a problem 2 corners ago around that slow hairpin. The car seems to stutter, but it gets going again. And it doesn't seem to be a serious problem. And the other thing is that Prost seems to have given up the chase, settled for second place when he had Piquet between them. He didn't really make a big effort to get past Piquet or to hurry. He's now passed him, but he looks like he's just going to follow Mansell around and pick up his 6 points for second place. So Mansell just coming up to complete 70 laps, 2 to go. And a lead, 7 seconds over Prost, who's just coming to the line now. Yes, 7 seconds. So that's not a problem. The problem is to keep everything tight, and please, no arm waving this time, not till after we've won the race. Let's do that first. Well, meantime, behind the first 2, Mansell and Prost, things are getting closer as Nigel Mansell, well, he tries to pass Gugelmin, who backs off. Now, Jean Alesi, I hope the producer lets us see this, because Jean Alesi is charging in the Ferrari. He's trying very hard. Now, there's Gugelmin, nearly taking Mansell off, and Mansell backs right off. But Jean Alesi is half a second now behind Ayrton Senna and going on lap 71 out of 72 for Broke to try and get the third position from the Brazilian. And if he does, that would make the difference between 4 points for Ayrton Senna and 3. Yes, and what's more, if he has, and there we are, and if he has a stab at Senna, I'm not too sure that Senna won't say, well, I don't want to lose even 4th place, so I might just let him go. And I think a really aggressive showing of the nose by Alesi might just get Senna to capitulate and hand over 3rd place to him. He really needs the points, Senna. Much better to finish 3rd than to take a risk trying to finish 4th rather than to try and take a risk. And Mansell now is on his last lap. So Mansell looking good now. He was being super cautious then with Gugelmin. Gugelmin made room, he backed off, he took it easy, and really a tremendous race from Mansell. He showed us his tremendous skills in overtaking, twice got up and past Prost, both times in quite brilliant fashion. And this win has been long awaited. He's really deserved it, and it makes him the highest Grand Prix winning Englishman of all time, if he can just make it to the line. Nigel Mansell, and really well deserved if he can do it.
Nigel Mansell on his way, almost there as he was in Canada, but this time I'm sure he's going to finish. And it will be to win his 17th Grand Prix of his career and his first Grand Prix of 1991 to maintain his record of winning Grand Prix. And look at Alesi! Alesi now pushing Ayrton Senna for that third position. They are on the last lap. Mansell coming home, he's coming down to the last corner now. He really can roll round and win in France now. And Nigel Mansell wins the French Grand Prix at the Nevers circuit at Magny-Cours, waves victoriously out of his cockpit as Alain Prost goes through to finish exactly 5 seconds behind the Williams Renault, and Renault have won in France, and they and France will be delighted about that. And Senna is coming home in third position. If he can keep clear of Alesi, I have no doubt that he will be able to, because they're down to the last corner now, and Senna is going to get those 4 points that he has been driving consistently for all through this 72-lap French Grand Prix by taking third place as he has. So, victory in France for Mansell. Prost in second position, Senna third in the McLaren. The second Ferrari of Jean Alesi finishes in fourth place ahead of Riccardo Patrese, 1 lap down in fifth place, and Andrea De Cesaris sixth in the Jordan.
Groeten na afloop van de grote prijs. Patrese is vijfde geworden. En De Cesaris zesde en Gugelmin is waarschijnlijk zevende gebleven. Dus opnieuw een WK-punt voor Andrea De Cesaris, en dat na zijn 2 vierde plaatsen in Montreal in Canada en in Mexico. Goede prestatie ook van de Italiaan en van het Jordan-team. Een glimlach kan eraf, opluchting bij Frank Williams. Zoals Patricia Boutsen me onlangs zei, men is er altijd beleefd bij Williams, soms vriendelijk, maar nooit warm. Hier de eerste 6 van de eerste Grand Prix van Frankrijk op Magny-Cours. 1 Mansell, 2 Prost, 3 Senna. Maar het verschil met Williams en Ferrari is bijzonder groot voor McLaren. En 4 dus Alesi, 5 Patrese, 6 is De Cesaris, 7e Gugelmin. En ik denk dat Nelson Piquet uiteindelijk nog 8e is geworden. En Thierry Boutsen die moet op een 13e plaats zijn geëindigd. Wat de tussenstand voor het wereldkampioenschap betreft kunnen we al zeggen dat Ayrton Senna uiteraard leider blijft. Na die fikse voorsprong die hij had uitgebouwd met die zeges in de eerste 4 wedstrijden van het seizoen. Senna heeft nu na 7 Grand Prix 50 punten. Dus daarmee blijft hij ruim leider. Daar de winnaar, de man die vandaag de 10 WK-punten in de wacht sleept. Mansell. Daar krijgen we nog de vervolg van de uitslag. Gugelmin dus 7e, zoals ik zei, Piquet 8e, Martini 9e, Herbert is 9e, Johnny Herbert in de Lotus. Ook een goede, rustige wedstrijd gereden met die bescheiden Lotus Jet motor. En dus de 7e Grand Prix van het seizoen zit erop. De zon schijnt boven Magny-Cours. De hemel is blauw. En de 90.000 toeschouwers hebben geen zege gekregen. Senna geen 50 punten, maar 48. Nigel Mansell is tweede met 23 punten. Patrese derde met 22 punten. Dus bij de 44 punten van Senna komen er 4 bij voor zijn derde plaats. Dat geeft dus 48. Mansell is dus tweede met 23 punten. Patrese derde met 22 punten. Dat zijn de eerste 3 in de tussenstand om het wereldkampioenschap. En dat na 7 grote prijzen. Volgend seizoen, of volgende week beter gezegd, iets korter bij, zijn we half seizoen, dat wou ik zeggen. Alesi is ook tevreden met zijn 4e plaats. Begroet daar zijn Franse publiek. Senna die zal iets minder tevreden zijn. Mogelijk niet met die 3e plaats, maar minder met de achterstand die hij heeft opgelopen. Daar staan de trofees te wachten voor Menzel, Prost en Ayrton Senna. Dus volgende week is er de grote prijs van Engeland, terwijl we hier nog eens de zegevierende aankomst zien van Nigel Mansell, de checkered flag daar. Dus 1 Mansell en 2 Prost en 3 Senna. Volgende week is er al opnieuw een wedstrijd. We blijven nu geruime tijd in Europa, tot eind september zelfs, tot en met de grote prijs van Spanje. Volgende week is er dus al een nieuwe wedstrijd, de grote prijs van Engeland, op het razendsnelle circuit van Silverstone. En dan zal deze man denk ik opnieuw de te kloppen figuur zijn voor eigen publiek. Hij rijdt daar vaak een knappe wedstrijd. Dat wordt dan de 8e wedstrijd van het seizoen. Dan mogen we weer op reis, want dan kunnen we naar Silverstone om ter plaatse commentaar te geven. Dat gaat iets makkelijker. Hier de tussenstand bij de constructeurs. McLaren nog altijd aan de leiding voor Williams. Je moet wel snel zijn om het te kunnen lezen. Wereldkampioen, snellezer of zoiets. Dus volgende week de grote prijs van Engeland. Die zenden we uiteraard ook rechtstreeks uit. Dan zijn we opnieuw op TV1, niet op TV2. Dat heeft alles te maken uiteraard met de Ronde van Frankrijk. Het Franse publiek heeft een mooi duel gekregen om de zege, maar geen overwinning voor hun landgenoot en nog altijd hun idool Alain Prost, maar wel een 2e plaats. Het wordt wat weer voor al die mensen om straks naar huis te geraken. Niet alleen voor die toeschouwers, maar ook voor die journalisten die daar weg moeten. Ellenlange files, de gebruikelijke taferelen, zeker daar in Magny-Cours, dat, zoals ik bij het begin van de reportage zei, in the middle of nowhere ligt. Het is eigenlijk een boerendorpje. En ik denk dat we op deze beelden afscheid kunnen nemen, want het duurt nog wat blijkbaar vooraleer de podiumgasten daar ook hun opwachting maken. Dus ik neem op dit beeld afscheid van u. Nog even opwijzen, volgende week grote prijs van Engeland weer rechtstreeks te volgen. Natuurlijk op de BRTN, niet op TV2, maar op TV1. Wij zijn er dan ook weer. Ik bedank Jacques Pijpen voor de assistentie. Hij heeft ongeveer 71 bloknotes volgeschreven. Ik dank u voor uw aandacht en als u volgende week wilt kijken, graag tot dan.